Many thanks. Oh, nice. Amazing.
Yeah, so you wanted me to do a recap of yesterday?
No, before we get to the recap, I'm calling on Mrs. Oluwatosin Adegboye to just maybe share with us a little experience in 2 minutes regards our lessons we got, the intro we got from Uncle Joe yesterday, and then regards parenting, and then the lesson we got on drug awareness and how much we need to curtail our kids from just consuming anything and just nothing. That includes we parents. So is it that you have any story, or if you have any story you can share with us from your family or neighbor's experience, anything that just happened that is correlated to the gist we got yesterday, the lessons we got yesterday, especially as regards the risk of taking drugs or how to avert drug takings and all whatnot. In 2 minutes, please. Mrs. Oluwatosin Adegboye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually, so yesterday, Uncle Joe talked to us, really intention that we connect because if we don't, and then we're available for them, not just providing for them, but also available emotionally, physically, what in every aspect of their lives. And then we are the one parenting them, not the social media outside who is not as knowledgeable as us. Because we want them to have the information from us. And then from Mr. David's presentation, it goes a lot to say that, I know a lot of my friends, when we talk about talk to your children about sex education, have sex conversations with them, talk to them about LGBT, talk to them about a whole lot of things, they feel like they're still young. But ironically, or some will say that they're going to a Christian school and all of that. We could see from David's story that that's only prayers alone cannot help us to parent our children. We have to do more. We have to seek knowledge like we are doing now. We have to attend conferences, meet with coaches that know about certain areas of in expertise, like David shared, I was actually the person who also enrolled my children into public speaking because they are still like the oldest is 4, and that was the only thing they could do. So we have to do a whole lot more than that. And stories about drugs is so really bad. I think drug is one thing that swallows destiny, because a whole lot of people in that bunks, we have managers of companies there. And so in those days, the people would think that it's only people on the streets that do drugs. But we could see from David's story that it's not only people from the street, it's cut across everybody. So we have to be really intentional about raising our children, talking to them about everything. We will have to be close to them, not just provide for them. Thank you.
That was quite amazing. You gave the recap. I was looking at having a male folk give us the recap, considering that I asked you the question to be in correlation to maybe an immediate environmental experience, whether from neighbors' kids or your own kids or any family member whose gestures you really don't understand. But because of yesterday's talk from a practical participant's experience of Dr. David, you would say, oh, okay, I think I noticed a few indices, but that's fine. We're very grateful, Mrs., for enlightening us and doing a very smart, simple, down-to-earth recap of the openings and the main talk we heard from Uncle Joe and David Folarami yesterday. I would call on Brother Kalu Uko. Brother Kalu Uko, I guess you can hear me clearly, and you were very much on yesterday.
So most people.
Hello, someone's TV is interfering, or radio set, I don't know. Brother Kalu Uko, please, I would like to call on you to, haven't heard, or since you were part of the conference yesterday and you heard the instance, particularly one of those factors that was mentioned was environmental factors, that if you're in an environment, study the environment, know the families. You can't know everyone and you can't know everything, but at least in the barest minimum, study the environment. That would enlighten you better to know how far your children can go, how far you get involved with parents around, and the kind of information you share with them and the people you allow into your home, just to make sure that you don't bring in hoodlums into your space, or persons who are having the tendencies of being brigands to distort the ideal family principles you have always been promoting, and then suddenly you will have them crumble all of that in one day. So having listened yesterday, and I mean, you saw the light of day today, you're here to be part of the program. Were there tendencies you saw in a neighbor, or did you express certain tendencies your own self, say, no, I think these features of mine, my children should not see them? Even if it was about how you wear your clothes, your pants in their presence or something. Some of these are stuff that youngsters see and they get to imitate. What would you like to share with us, please, regards that? Brother Kaluko, I don't know if you did hear my question. Hello, Brother Kaluko. Okay, let's assume he is grappling with certain technical challenges. I would call on Brother Sylvester Ua. Brother Sylvester Ua, if you're in the house and active, please indicate with an emoji, or you could turn on your microphone and say, yes, you're here, please. Okay, all right, he's active. Brother Sylvester. We should start anytime soon, but please, this should ordinarily just awaken us, or wake us all up to see how fresh our memories are and how we've been able to correlate the information we got yesterday to practical realities surrounding us. If no one, I would give my own share experience. Today, actually, my daughter hopes to start school by September. And today we made a visit to the school very close to the family house where she would attend, because we looked at so many things. Proximity for now, she's only 2 years, 6 months. And we cannot begin to think that we should take her several miles away from home, and then we hope to go drop her off and then eventually come back, considering the structure of our schedules and our engagement. So we took her out, and then we met the proprietors. And when she looked at the child, the woman told us that was after the meeting anyway, that she observed that the child is very keen and hyperactive. And incidentally, while we're there, my daughter was all over the place. She was jumping and all that. She has this spirituality. If she is comfortable with a space, she loosens up and familiarizes. But if she is not comfortable, she sits back and she gives you gestures like daddy and all kinds of signs. She does that to signify or indicate that she doesn't feel comfortable here. So today, one of those signs I know I heard equally yesterday is environmental influence, and how it affects us and affects our children. So when I went there, I kept asking God, please go ahead of us. Let this not just be an environment where we would come to just learn and then walk away. Let it be where children will come with decorum, courtesy, and all whatnot. And eventually the proprietors and one of the tutors, also a supervisor, was available. And from their expressions and from how much I spoke with people, and then my daughter's acceptance. In fact, she soiled her hands. When the children's supervisor asked to join her, to take her to a running tap to wash her hands, she accepted immediately, but she did something. She turned and looked at the proprietors. Being an older woman, she turned and looked at me. She didn't need an endorsement, because why? I didn't make any gesture, neither did the woman. And she went. Eventually, she came back and all that. Such expressions are quite key. You know, it may be very little and almost insignificant, but it matters a lot. And how much you're part of their lives goes a long way to tell you what to avoid, where not to take them to. You remember there was a time Mr. David for complaining, I don't want to go to school today. You say, you must go, you go on. And they pay money tire, and you did hear the time in. You know, all of that. We need to settle down, listen to our kids, and know that in our children, they are future leaders, and they should. Proprietors today, my daughter some sort gets very tough. And she said, yes, it's allowed. Allowed them. Dear friends and folks, the teachings yesterday was on how much parents must be involved fully in training their kids beyond just in. We have to be leaders, we have to be models. And I trust that having been part of yesterday and we will teach them adequately what we ought to teach them. Once more, part yesterday, those who couldn't be part of it. However, it's all okay. You didn't miss out entirely. Share the link with every other person on your contact, whether he's a member of or member with them. Mine is on my status. It's important for people to be. As such, I would say to all of us, let's open our hearts and be willing. Two speakers. We would have Miss Tochi Praise Ikechukwu, author and also a renowned speaker. She would be speaking to us and teenagers, while we equally have Pastor Boma, who would equally be speaking to us on parenting century teenager. He will be speaking to us on parenting a 21st. Even the mere mention of the 21st century, you know, a lot has evolved, and a bogus one. And both of them will be talking on immensely significant and of eternal value. I would indulge all of you to it that you learn and unlearn. However, before we get to hear Ms. Tochi Praise, who will be speaking first on Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, you know, he's fondly called that, but he's officially called. He's a great author, a wonderful mentor, a teenage leader, contributed immensely to developing the psyche of preteens and teenagers to get the ball rolling. Uncle Joe, you are greatly welcome, and please.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this great move that is set to rescue from the hands of the enemy. I was also, I'm still digesting all that Mr. Is still getting at me. And for those who missed it, they did us a favor and recorded it, and probably after a replay, and so that we could listen to it. Once again, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you here. Today is promises to be and even better. We're going to be talking about more about sexuality, coming from diverse perspectives. parents don't talk about in Africa. We don't talk about Nigeria. We don't, but it's happening. My younger sister organized some teenagers and preteens for me to talk with last month. And when I started, oh, I was like, what's the problem? Why are you covering your ears? And we're like, but at the end of the day, I discovered they know most of what I wanted to talk about. And say, no, we don't need to talk about this thing. We go all pious. We make them believe that, no, that area is not good. Whatever you are hiding from, that thing you are hiding, that thing that you are hiding, you see it. They will find out. They will want to know, what is daddy, what is mommy hiding from talk about. When there is something happening, maybe on TV, you just switch it off. They go back to it. Some phones, Android phones, and they have access to these sites. They watch this thing. Children are exposed to millions of sex content on in a year. By the time they divided it, it got to some hundreds of thousands in a day, in a week. It or yes, these children are exposed to these things. So why don't we talk about it and to meet people outside to talk about it with them? When I talk to parents, I say enough of. We should stop playing ostrich with our kids when it comes to sexual education with them. Do you know that their private parts? And we're like, no, my this, my breast, my butt, my private part. My coach Wendy says every part of your body. When I heard it, I was mad. Every part of your body is private. Sexuality, the way a man looks at you is already saying something. React. Okay, most girls who lost their virginity, who started tell you most of them say it was a mistake. I don't know how it happened. I still have a case on my hand now. I don't know. It was a mistake. I didn't plan it because of improper sex. Your head, your hair is beautiful. Why must he touch? Can't he appreciate you from a distance? Your hair for you. And from touching your hair, is touching your ear. And from touching your ear, the girl is. That's how they have emotional surge of oxytocin, sex hormone. And the next thing, she puts her head on his shoulder, and he's telling her sweet nothings, lying to her, and at the end of the day, she gets to be engaged in sex. Some of and it affects their destiny, their tomorrow. I was talking with a girl who was like in a teenage training. She was like, uncle, I went to see one man, invited me to his house. He has been inviting me, but kept on calling. So I went. And then, uncle, he said I should have sex with him. I was like, no. And he started crying. He said, if I don't have sex with him, that his scrotum is going to pain him. It will go inside his tummy and he will be taken to the hospital. Stories upon stories. At the end of the day, pity, because of ignorance, she had sex with that man. If and told the right thing, she would have known that man. Parents, enough of playing ostrich. God forbid, it's not my portion. If it is not your portion, like my mentor, it is not my portion in Jesus' name. Beyond your prayers, like Mr. David, yes. We need to come up and act. We need to speak with our teenagers. Talk with my preteen. When I started talking about sex education, there were some. But one of the things you need to do, I keep is that we must create an atmosphere of love and communication. Have them as your confidant. If they cannot confide in you, that they tell daddy or mommy this thing, nobody will hear it. They will go out. And trust me, those persons they're asking from are actually looking for on their ignorance and get them into trouble. Their other peer pressure could get them into trouble. Some telling her, what are you doing with virginity? You want to carry virgin to where? Carry virgin that comes to heaven. You are not a big girl. You can only be a big girl. You cannot be. And I was like, you are actually the VIP because you've not had sex. Your husband is going to celebrate it when he discovers that you are a virgin. Just like Uncle Benny through surgery for me to tell them the right thing. Someone else will tell them. Believe you me, when they hear the wrong thing, their minds are naive. They just pick it up and then begin to. Let's stop playing the ostrich, living. Some areas should be everything private to them. Their hair, their lips, their nose, they shouldn't be touched. Nobody should touch any part of it. It's private to them. Look at the other day and he said, his little kid, a neighbor came to or touched her in a way she didn't like. A little kid, not reacted immediately and went and told the parents. That's the right. In my house, my preteen and her sisters, they have accountability. They do their accountability writing. You each other in school. So I supervise. So please, let's go for knowledge and it won't be good with certain teenagers. I was just watching, before I came into this train, I was watching a program where someone was saying that some teachers in some schools are already teaching to make a choice between being a male or a female. You can be a girl, telling a girl that you can be a boy. And decide to be who you are. Freedom of choice. Nobody can influence it. If they have the right knowledge from what you're teaching is wrong. They market with their materials, with their clothing. One other group, Sister Stella's group, tough questions children and teenagers ask. Somebody brought a shirt, innocently, looks fine, beautiful designs, green t-shirt, green designs on white background. When you look at it, you don't know what it is. But by the time we looked closely at it, you discover that there's an element of LGBT on it. They use all avenues to propagate their ideals. Brother Mr. David Florman, yesterday, in one of our programs, he said he was in a program where somebody said he was giving 90 million naira to recruit these teenagers, these young ones. So that tells you that these guys are doing a lot. They are doing a lot. If you allow your children to watch content on TV, please monitor it. If they have phones, monitor what they do. There are apps that you can use to monitor that you register their phone lines, and then it's linked to your. what they do, where they go to. Even on Nickelodeon or so, recently there's a site, I think it's Loud House or something. They are propagating gay principles, homosexuality on that platform, where you have a man and a man, cartoon characters, a man and a man kissing themselves, a girl and a girl kissing themselves and stuff like that. That shouldn't be. So I think I'll just keep it at this. All I would say is go for information, go for skills, and apply them. And please, always get your children very close to you. Children, I tell parents, children are like young yam tendrils. I grew up with my grandma, so I did a lot of farming while growing up. Children are like young yam tendrils. And parents are like the stay, like the rope that supports the yam tendrils. If you plant your yam and you just make the heap, put them inside the heap and you allow them, the yam, when it grows out, when it sprouts, it just grows all around the ground and it won't do well. But a good farmer puts a support, a rope, and ties it to a stake. Once the tendrils feel it, they grow along that line and they get to the support and the yam grows big. That's the place of parenting, good parenting in the lives of children. You are like that support. You are like that rope that guides the children. You are like a lighthouse that gives guidance and grooming and support and light to your children. So on that note, I want to say welcome once again, while we'll give room to our major speakers. Pastor Boma, we'll start off with Pastor Boma while waiting for Sister Tochi to settle in. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and welcome to this conference.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Sister.
Please, can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So just hold on for me. Hello, Sister, just...
Oh yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Your line kept breaking, so I acknowledge the recording. Okay, I'm here. All right. So I noticed you left me a message, but obviously Sister Tochi is ready, very much available, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Hello. Is it any clear? Please, if you can hear me. Oh, many thanks, Miss. All right, House. To our visionary and founder of this group, we are very grateful for such a great and wonderful opening. And also to add very quickly that Dr. Justin Uday, please, while the program is on, begin to prepare yourself to give us a wrap up or a recap eventually, and then you leave us with a glorious closing remark that would eventually leave the memories of this event on our hearts. My dear friends, you know, we cannot just have Sister Tochi just start speaking with us, considering her profile and how much she has done. And this is a little I actually dug. And one friend of mine, this is how much popular she is. This is what he shared with me. That Miss Tochi Praise Ikechukwu is a missionary entrepreneur. She's a life coach for young and old, and she's a credible author. She is a visionary of young stars in missions, and she is the author of Everybody Loves Lee. Another book she has written also is titled Dignity of Teenhood. And another is While I Wait. Indeed, While I Wait. She loves to see people come out of mediocrity and ignorance to the fullness of life. There is so much to be learned, and you cannot claim ignorance to it. As such, about preteens and teaching us about parenting can never be overemphasized. As such, she's a child of God, a married woman. She's married to a lovely man called Mr. Ikechukwu Ofurum, and they are blessed with 3 L brothers. Hear the names, my dear friends. Interesting, but quite remarkable. One is life, the other is light, and the third is liberty. If you have got those titles in the names as names of your children, my dear friends, you should go back home and sleep because your mother is a mentor and a mother. Together with a resounding welcome, whatever emoji you want to use, you are permitted to also turn on your microphone and say a great welcome to our prolific also, Mrs. Tochi Praise Ikechukwu. Madam, you're most welcome, please. You can take over the stage.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, thank you very much, Maz. I would like to say I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege to be part of this parenting conference. I'm very, very excited dealt with, okay, that we gathered today to look at the things we need to do to keep up with the tab of things happening in our world, especially as it concerns our children. It's a wonderful thing, and I would like to say once again, thank you and welcome to this conference as we trust God to help us to learn one or two things. This evening we'll be talking about sexuality in teenagers, and also we'll be talking about LGBTQ. Recently, a few weeks ago, we had a program in Youngsters in Nation, and we tagged it LGBTQ for the teenagers and my body awareness for the children. A lot of people chatted me up and were like, what is LGBTQ? I was like, ah. So a lot of people are not even aware. Some of them know about lesbians, gay, but they don't even know that there are still a lot of other that we are here to talk about these things, our society, and eating up our young ones. So talking about sex in young people, sex in teenagers, I like to say that generally everybody is created with a sex organ. Everybody is created with a sexuality, which could also refer to the state of our being male or female. I'm a Christian and I believe in the Bible. And the Bible said that God made them male and female. That is what my Bible said. And I believe that if you use the Quran too, there might not be any other gender but the male and the female. Then everybody was created with a sex organ, created with sexual desire, created with sexual urge. And times come when these urges or these emotions, the hormones that control the sexuality of humans come to be. I remember an auntie called me one time that her 9-year-old has started growing breasts, and she's so scared. She's so scared of what might happen. She's so scared of a lot of things. And I told her, you don't need to be scared. She's just developing, she's just growing. And I know a lot of parents give their children orientation and warnings and threats like, if you dare get pregnant, I'll do this to you. My dad once told my younger sister, if you get pregnant, I'll find a big toilet and throw you into it. You know, people say a lot of things. Don't go close to a boy, don't go close to a girl, unless you get her pregnant or you get pregnant. But then, that's not the way forward. Some parents lock up their children. They don't just let them go anywhere. They keep them in the house, and yet some children still get sexually active while in the houses of their parents, while within the fences that their parents have built around them. What is the solution? How do we help our children manage their sexuality? We need to help these children because some of them are fine. They feel they've grown, they're up to the age of taking sexual decisions or decisions concerning their sexuality, but most of them are not good enough. So we as parents need, because parenting is not a small task, we as parents need to be we need to be up to date. One, thank you for coming for this conference. And then we also need to be informed. If you are not, a woman told me that her children were the ones that gave her sex education about what is currently happening. So she's not hard on them. She asked them questions. Time has passed when parents will just sit their children down and be talking for hours. You're talking. And then if you are sensitive, you see the look on their faces like, who is she talking to? Who is he talking to? When you finish talking, you shut your mouth and I'll do what I have to do. Okay? Telling them not to keep a boyfriend or girlfriend is good, but it might not really be the solution. Can you hear me? I want to know if you can hear me.
We are hearing you. Go on.
Okay. So, but what we need to do is that we need to teach them to set boundaries. We teach our teenagers to set boundaries like where to go. And then we don't need to tell them what to do and what not to do because of ourselves. A lot of parents shout, you want to kill me. I didn't kill my parents. You see, you want to kill me in this house. You're doing this, you're doing that. It's not about you, it's about them. When they know that it's about them, when they know the repercussions of being sexually active for them, for those of them who have not yet become sexually active, how it will be a distraction, how it will distort their education and whatever, then they will think about it and then they will retrace their steps. But when we continue to say it's about me, do you know the title I hold in church? Do you know who I am in the society? Do you know the title I hold in the political society and what have you? Then some children actually outrightly go the other way just to stab their parents because all their life, everything has been about you, nothing for them. It's as if they are not existing. So, but when we tell these children, I actually love you, and I am saying this and that because of you, then they will know that it's just about them, and then they will know that they are stabbing themselves when they err or when they do the things that you're telling them not to do. Okay, so we teach them to set boundaries, and then we teach them delayed gratification. Delayed gratification means keeping what you need to enjoy for the time. I tell teenagers that sex is good when it is done in the confines of marriage. Sex is good, sex is refreshing, but then it is not for the now. Someone made an analogy that her father usually makes very good meals when he wants to cook. And then she's married, she's a married lady, and each time she has to go home to visit her parents, along the way, she will drive through McDonald's, she will see donuts, she will see a lot of junk food, a lot of restaurants will be advertising their food. But as hungry as she is, she makes a decision that she won't stop by to eat anything anyhow because she knows her father, who she's going to meet, is preparing something delicious, something wonderful. And then I also make this analogy usually teenagers, that if you're hungry, probably on your way back from school and you're passing through a refuse dump and you see bread, chicken, even if it's well fried and tossed chicken that is on as part of the garbage as you're passing through the garbage dump, I usually ask them, would you stop by to pick the chicken? Would you eat it? A lot of them will say no, because it's surrounded by dirt. Everywhere is dirty. Why would I pick it? I'm not a mad person. So I tell them that's the same way you need to hold on with your urge to have sex or to be sexually active, because delayed gratification teaches you to keep pleasure for the right time. And for the right time for sex is actually marriage. And one thing I need to emphasize is that if you know you don't have the disposition to guide your children, please get them a mentor. A lot of parents have not had time to deal with impatience. You've not had time to deal with your childhood trauma. You've not had time to heal from the way you were actually raised. And then you're unleashing the anger, the frustration, or some parents are actually in marriages that are not working. Someone shared her experience today with me, and I was like, this marriage is 70% gone. That was what I told my husband this evening as I came back, that this marriage is 70% gone. A man is flogging the children and the wife tries to intervene. She flogs her together with the children and what have you. In such a situation, even this woman is not in a mentally stable state to be a guide for her children. Please, if you need to get a mentorship for your children, please do get, so that your children can be guided, so that your children can be helped. Okay, so we need to be at the rightful place in order to help these children. If you are still talking to your teenage boy or girl who is 15, 16, and you're raising a cane, you're raising your voice, you don't want to dialogue, then you miss it. Like I said before, they will just listen to you. In short, they're not even listening to you. Their minds have gone off to somewhere. But the good news is that people are succeeding, mentors, parents, there are people who are succeeding in raising wholesome children. And these children are following the path their parents want them to follow. So quickly, we'll be talking about the LGBTQ. Like I said, a lot of people are ignorant about what LGBTQ. LGBTQ are part of what people take as human perspective on sex, because all of this has to talk about how we perceive ourselves, how we use our sexual organs, and how we use our sexual desires, how we channel our sexual desires. L stands for lesbians, which is ladies who have sexual relations with their fellow ladies. G stands for gay. That's men who have sexual relations with their fellow men. B are bisexuals. That's people who feel they are both male and female, who can act like males and also act like females. That means they can have sexual partners of same sex and also sexual partners of the other sex, of the opposite sex. Okay, and then T has to do with transgender, people who were born as females and they chose or decide to be males at some point. So they actually do some kind of plastic surgeries to change their sexual organ. I was watching the television the other day, and a young man, I saw him as a young man, but they presented him as a transgender. He's a footballer. And then he said he was a female, but they did some tests and they discovered that he had 70% of male hormones as against 30% of female hormones. I don't know how that will be possible when he has the female sexual organ, and then he had to do plastic surgery. But they've not been allowing him to play football as a male because he's a transgender. So transgenders are either are people who change their sexual organs or who change their gender. Okay, and then that's for T. Q stands for questioning. Some people say it's for queer, and then it's for questioning. But there is even a plus, and that questioning are the ones who have not yet defined their particular sexuality or their particular gender or their particular perception. And then there is equally a plus, currently now online, it's LGBTQ plus plus plus. So those pluses represent questions, addition, the ones that have not been named, the ones that have not been defined. And just like when I logged in, I had Ms. Tuko saying that international organizations have opted to sponsor mentors, schools, religious organizations, or whatever, who will go about preaching the message of LGBTQ in Nigeria. And that a particular man who owns an NGO have already gotten 90 million. And I asked myself, the day I saw it online, I asked myself, I hope he will start with his children. Well, you know, he was trying to catch fun. He was trying to catch fun because he was asked and he said, 90 million is a whole lot of money. And the day we talked about LGBTQ in youngsters in missions, I was telling them that it's possible these people will come to your school or wherever they might meet you and tell you that if you can become a lesbian, that they will give you 1 million naira, possibly out of the 100 or 200 million that they got from the international bodies. And I asked them, would you accept to probably change your gender if given such money? And some of them took time to say, some of them said, no, I won't. But some of them took time before they said no, because 1 million naira is a whole lot of money, and some of them already have what they need to do. And if we are not, there's something about knowledge. Knowledge helps you to establish value. And for children, for young people who are still growing, when you establish the values they are to live by, if it sticks and if they know and accept it, it doesn't matter how much someone offers them, they won't do otherwise. Okay. So we need to sit our children down. We need to be available. A lot of parents are unavailable. A lot of parents think it's about sending them to expensive schools. They think it's about buying them expensive clothes and what have you. Currently, we are in holiday. A lot of parents are still pushing their children to holiday lessons. Fine, some of them work, and some of them are even people who don't work. They don't even want to hear public holiday. Sometimes I weep when I hear the mindset of a lot of parents. And I asked them, the psychologists, the educationists that developed school curriculum and put holiday, are they foolish? Even these children, they need rest from academic work. If they have to do something else during the holiday, let it be maybe a creative class where they learn skills. There are so many skills that can help your children in life. Not the same academic work that they've been doing. And then they need time with you. It's not every time. I had a neighbor that would always use this sentence, I don't need disturbance. I don't need this. Every time she's always sending them out, even when she's in the house. And these children will roam around. And that's how a lot of children have been abused. Please, let's make time with these children and get to know what they know. First of all, that's where you even talk to them about, where this discussion has to start from. What do they know? What exactly do your children know? It's possible that they know more than you. Yesterday in our family devotion, like I said, I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. In our family devotion, we're reading the book of Luke chapter 2. And we got to a place where Jesus and his family, they went for an occasion. They went to celebrate something. And then the parents and the other relatives were on their way going back. They had traveled for a whole day without knowing that Jesus was not with them. You know what they did? When they discovered he wasn't with them, they looked for him among their relatives. They didn't see him. And then they started going back to where they were with him. Then they found him there. While I was reading that particular passage, I was like, wow. This is the same thing that is happening with a lot of parents. They think their children are with them. They have a limit to what they think their children know, but their children are long gone past there. They've lost them. They are not with them. And then they've traveled far without knowing that these children are not with them. But the good news is that there is hope. We can still pick them up we can still pick ourselves up in this journey of parenting from where we are. So sometimes your children might have known so much. These people that are promoting this sexual perversion, I call them sexual perversion. They call them sexual perspective, but actually sexual perversion. They are everywhere. I was just a young girl growing up. I had gotten born again a few years back, and then we went for a vigil. After the vigil, we were taking a rest somewhere. And then a lady put her leg, someone that finished the vigil with us, she put her leg on my body. So I thought she was just sleeping carelessly, and I removed the leg. She did it the second time, I removed it. She now told me, she said, why are you behaving like this? Everybody's doing it, including Pastor Soso's wife. Why are you doing this? I was shocked. I was a teenager. I was a kind of naive. But then I was shocked that somebody who just finished a vigil is thinking about immorality, not just immorality, an abominable aspect of immorality. You know, so they are everywhere. They're in the homes. We really need to put our heads down, parents. You need to look in. We are currently running Youngsters Summer Hub, where we teach young people, where we teach children and teenagers skills, musical instruments playing, and a lot of other skills, comic drawing and what have you. Here in Omaya, we live in Omaya. And one of them said to me, I've forgotten what I said to her. She said, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I had to have some time with her after that very day program. She said that she's a boy. And then the mother had confided in me to say that she doesn't like putting on earrings. She doesn't like wearing girls' clothes. She prefers boys' clothes. I'm still talking to her. I'm still working on her. Who knows? It's possible. She's yet to open up. It's possible these people are in her school and they've met with her. So we need to really get to know our children and then get to know how to guide them. And if they need external counsel, we need to counsel them. A lot of it's possible. Nigeria is yet to legalize gay and same-sex marriage. But it's possible they might do that very soon. Who knows? We just have to prepare our mind. We just have to prepare our children. We just have to prepare the ground. My own Bible said that God made them male and female. So they are to tell them they are to remain with the gender. But assuming they were supposed to be the other gender, they would have, God would have made them so. And most of them claim that probably that's what the people that preach this message, they actually tell them that you are actually supposed to be a male, but you showed up as a female, you know. But that's not true. A lot of them were introduced to lesbianism in boarding schools or by housemaid. A lot of them were introduced to gayism by friends, brothers, or what have you. You know, so with this introduction, when they introduce them, they keep practicing and practicing and practicing. Before you know it, they lost desire, they lost passion for the opposite sex. So the enemy is actually ravaging the society with these sexual perversions, LGBTQ. And then the movement is growing. They are silently growing. One thing is that not creeping as I mentioned, and sometimes certain diseases don't get to the grave. So it's actually better to prevent than to cure. So should we know? We need to radically promote the right thing. If you're a teenage teacher in church or in the mosques, or you have an NGO and what have you, keep talking about this. Listen to them, answer their questions. A lot of parents, a lot of teachers don't listen. They just talk, they just teach, they just dish out instructions. Stay here, don't go, But then we need to we need to be radical about it. If you believe in the Bible, read the book of Romans chapter 1. The Bible said that that God, because they led the natural use of humans, God gave them up to a reprobate mind. A reprobate mind is someone who you wouldn't want to have anything to do with. When a child keeps misbehaving, certain parents who have lost hope on the child will just say, I just live your life. If you want to destroy, that's actually how God sees people who engage in same-sex relationships and same-sex marriage. It's not as if he sees people who engage in fornication as good people. The Bible have also said it, that anyone who is joined to a harlot, anyone who gives his body to immorality has become one with the harlot, and has also opened doors to demonic infestations. Okay, so we need to guide and guard our children. We need to ask them questions and listen to their questions and get to know how much they know. And then we need to reorient the minds of our young people. Some of them have already been deceived. We need to tell them this is actually the right path. Because some of them have heard these messages over and over and over again. There are no two ways about it. Young people must set boundaries for sex, as it concerns sex in their sexuality. If we're talking about rape, which is an aspect of sexuality, nobody has been raped. Okay, a few percentage of rape victims have been raped by strangers. A greater percentage of rape victims have been raped by people who they are comfortable around. My friend's brother, my brother's friend, an uncle, a neighbor, an acquaintance, and what have you. So our boys and our girls need to be careful. I tell teenagers, everybody is a suspect until proven otherwise. In short, there's even no opportunity to prove whether the person is a rapist or not. And then we need to be intentional in how we raise our boys. Thank God that a lot of people are coming up in raising the boy child. A lot of people are coming up in raising the boy child, because previously it's been about the girl child, the girl child, the girl child, and then they are married off to poorly raised boys. They are married up to boys who have no emotions, because they were told while growing up, you don't have to cry, you're a boy. So they bottle up emotions, and when they are depressed, when they are frustrated, when they are dissatisfied, they find people to rape, thinking they will come up after the experience. But then the frustration continues. That's why they keep up the cycle. they rape this person, sometimes they are arrested, sometimes they go free because the victim keeps quiet. Okay, so our children need to also know that it is dignity to keep themselves. There are a lot of young people who have never been single. They started from primary 2 when they started having crushes, experiencing they are crushing on somebody, they are crushing on the person is crushing on them, and then they keep growing like that. Tell them there is more to life than having sex. There's more to life than expressing themselves sexually. Some of them they've not even defined their life's ambition. A lot of adults, I think adults need to, the best message you can preach to our children and our proteges is our life's experience. Yes, how you were exposed early to immorality, especially early to sex, and then what danger it did to you. Our time was even better. Now everywhere, and a lot of parents have tried their best to destroy their children by giving them Android phones, children who are less than 16, children who are less than 18, and then even adults. Android phones are like a point of bondage. A lot of adults have difficulty disciplining them. Somebody will be pressing phone for hours in that day. And what is the person doing? Not that they're doing business or having meetings like this. They are just checking people's pictures on Facebook, going through people's blogs and what have you. You just check and read and read and read and laugh and have fun. So let alone children. Parents don't even censor what their children watch. They just allow them to watch anything. Please, you are destroying them. You are allowing them to do the things, to early exposure to sex. We need to be there for our children. If you believe in prayers, you also need to get them mentors through life. If they need therapy, please get them people or get them coaches who can so that the children can be healed. Okay.
Mrs. Tochi Praise. Sorry, I'm interfering. If you can hear me, though we're experiencing a little technical glitch from here. But please, we'll appreciate it if you round up in the next 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm back. I think it was a network challenge. So please, we need to do all that we can, whether it's prayers, talking, getting mentors, being there for your children so that you can know them. We just need to do so. And then we need to be aware. Once in a while, Google things. When you hear things, just Google them. Children get to know a lot of things through their friends. Let it not be that your child is getting to know about LGBTQ, is getting to be aware of their body from their friends. And it actually starts, some of you still have little children, not just teenagers. It actually starts when they are young, when they're growing up. This will be an advantage for those of you that still have young children. Children who are maybe toddlers. Your 5 years old comes back from school and is telling you, this is what happened. If my classmate tapped me, I tapped him back, they pinched me, and this one, my classmate is very funny, and then you're busy. Do you say, no, I don't need that noise. I don't need, you talk too much. Some people even tell their children, you talk too much, must talk all the time. But then when you have something like that, you want them to tell you everything. They won't. So get it right from the beginning. A woman said that while growing up, each time they come back from school, her dad asked her, how was school today? Then she started narrating how school was. But she will now find out that her dad is just there looking at his newspaper. He just asked how was school for asking sake. It's a normal thing. We ask, how are you? We need to want to know how the person is. But she now decided.
Okay.
She now decided, as she was growing up, that she would no longer give her father details. So each time her father asked her how was school today, she would say fine. And the dad didn't even notice that her reply have changed because he wasn't even aware of the details she was previously given.
Thank you.
So then when she grew up, her dad wanted her to always tell him about whether she has started keeping boyfriends and what have you. She said she couldn't open up because they were not friends. So if your child is your friend from childhood, then your child can tell you anything.
And
so even
everything.
If you missed it, I know that.
Sorry.
You said?
Yep. Sorry. Please, would plead if you can in a minute, please. Maybe you round up so that we get to the next theme of the day and the next speaker, please. Thank you, man.
In conclusion, I just have to echo some of the things we said before, that the society is getting worse, civilization is expanding views, taking some extreme steps in bringing up things. And some of the things are perversions, which are aimed at destroying our children, destroying their original purpose. But then we as parents, we have to say no, and then we have to be there for our children. Like I was saying before I was asked to conclude, if you starting to be a friend to you, but please, that shouldn't make you draw back. Just go ahead. Change begins with a step. So let's be friends with our children, get to know what they know, and then we start from there. If we need to get them mentors, we will need to tell them, don't shout, just teach, instruct, advise. Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Oko, for this opportunity to present this to us on this platform in the conference. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tochi Praise. That was quite very wonderful presentation. To all of us participants here on Zoom, please show some love. And to those of us joining via the YouTube link, If you can, use the emoji there or the symbol you can to express gratitude and appreciate. Mrs. Tochi prays for a wonderful presentation. Here is a summary of what she has said, if I would be permitted. I mean, I'm not enough an authority to summarize her in that, but then this is what she said. It's a quote I would quote verbatim. She said, knowledge helps you to establish value. It's key. Above all she has said, if you did not listen to the highlights of all she said, as regards you being a parent and how much closely you need to guide and work by marking terms with your children, by not necessarily reading newspaper when you ask them, how are you? Remember that this, which you have learned, will help you establish value. And how would you do that? At the end of the day, you find out that you have to make reference to what she has said. And I bet Mrs. Tochi will eventually share with us her slides so that we would pass it across or pass it on to very many others that would need it. We will be bringing on our next speaker. And I'm also glad to say to you that we are live on YouTube. To the technical team, thank you. You're doing a great job. We see how much you're doing. And for those encountering a few technical hitches from their own end, it's all okay, but please do well to be a part of it because it's getting the more interesting and is also getting livelier. Our next speaker, without much ado, will be Pastor Boma Koko. Pastor Boma Koko holds a BSc and MSc in Business Management from River State University and Ignatius Ajuru University of Education, Port Harcourt, respectively. He's been working with teenagers for over 2 decades, and he was sometime a teen choir master, and he has been teaching, or he taught, excuse me, in 2 international secondary schools where he served as a classroom teacher, a school counselor, and a trainer. A teacher trainer. He is a certified teen psychologist, teens teacher for over 10 years, and a pastor over teens in church. He is a coach, he is a mentor and a friend. He has founded, by God's grace, the vision given him, Youth for Christ Foundation. And this was founded in the year 2002. Most recently, he founded Teens of Impact Foundation. That was in 2016. And he holds a vision to see that 50 million teens across the globe are duly educated, God being his help, because it's not a stride to take for granted and to think that you can achieve that by your own might and power. However, he currently provides teaching, counsel, and mentorship to 10 secondary schools with over 12,000 students. Wow. He holds a monthly meetings, for teenagers, and he calls it Teens Connect, where he teaches and empowers teens on various issues peculiar to teens. He is a writer, he is a speaker, and a content creator. My dear friends, over and above all, the father of them all, according to a comedian who fine-tunes himself in that way by saying the father of them all. Above all, he is a pastor with Living Faith Church worldwide. And he is married to a beautiful wife. He's got 5 wonderful kids. I wish we would have their names here to call them. Probably they will be in sync, like the light, life, and liberty of Mrs. Tochi Priest. However, while we wait to hear that, I will indulge us all to please celebrate Pastor Boma as we receive him on our virtual stage to speak to us on 21st Century Teenager. Together, all of us, please use your emojis. Your microphones can come on if you so wish, but just for a second to say you're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much,
You're
sir.
welcome.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
God bless you.
That introduction was so elaborate. It's beginning to put me on my toes now.
We needed to exhaust the little we have available, because if we have all of it.
Yeah, you have said so much now that it's putting me under a lot of pressure to deliver what you have said. But I thank you so much, sir. I thank you so much, sir. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. I'd like to deeply appreciate. I'd like to deeply appreciate Uncle Joe for this wonderful platform. Thank you so much, sir. You're doing such a great job. God bless you. This is what I've imagined to have been happening in a long while now, because I've come to understand that in the lives of teenagers, the major challenge we have is not just because the teenagers are who they are, but because of untrained parents. And an untrained parent is a dangerous parent. An untrained parent is a dangerous parent, because not only will you affect the teenager directly, but you're going to affect other generations behind him, because the way he's trained is the way he's likely to train his own children. So I'm really grateful to God that we have this opportunity, we have this conference. Thank you so much. And Kochi has done such a great job. Thank you. God bless you, to help me go straight to a number of other things I have. And then I also would like to appreciate Mr. David. Yesterday, he did such an awesome job, In case you missed it, please just go back and try to get that. It's full of value. Thank you so much all. And without much ado, I'd just like for us to start. Can we go ahead now? If you're ready,
Yes,
just let me know. Can we go ahead?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're discussing parenting a 21st century teenager. Parenting a 21st century teenager. And why the emphasis on 21st century? Because the kind of parenting we had in the 20th century cannot work in the 21st century. Yesterday, when Uncle Joe started off, he mentioned a few things that we saw when we were teenagers. How that the TV will come on around 4 p.m. and about midnight it will go off. The program that we watched was always regulated. Movies only come up during the weekend and all of that. So everything was regulated, and then children were in a sane environment, so to speak. We're in a sane environment. But here we are in a very loud environment with our current teenagers. DSTV alone has over 5,000 channels, including radio stations and all of that. And then you talk about the millions and millions and millions of websites giving out all kinds of content. So the children have a lot of noise around them. And you know, the loudest noise gets their attention. The loudest noise gets their attention. So if we do not give them the kind of attention they require, then they are good. I'd like for us to very quickly look at a few things. Because I'm a teacher, so I just quickly like to run through our objectives and what we hope to achieve at the end of this. Number one, we'd like to learn who are teenagers. We also like to learn the teen brain, what the teenage brain is like. And we'd like to know parenting phases of parenting, why 20th century parenting cannot work with the 21st century teenager, social media platforms teenagers use, apps to watch out for on your teens' devices, how to build a lasting relationship with your teenager. God being my helper, I'll be able to run through this as fast as we can. Number one, we're looking at who are teenagers. Now, teens navigate a series of intense emotional, physical, social, and mental changes. Understanding the experiences of teenagers and what they go through will enable teachers, parents, caregivers, coaches, and whoever is involved with teenagers to have a better understanding and be able to work and get the best out of teenagers. So I'll just straightly go into different categories of teenagers. Now, I know basically what we have been used to is that we just have teenagers, but I'd like to just tell us that there are different categories of teenagers. Number one, we have the preteens. These are children between the ages of 10 and 12 years. they are included in our discussion today now, because you will find that generally, and just like one of the experiences Tochi shared also, that she had a neighbor or someone who was concerned. Her child was only 8 or 9 and was already developing breast. So you see that it seems development for children is coming earlier than it used to be. So you find preteens that already have the kind of experiences, the kind of knowledge, the kind of information that you would expect a teenager to have. So that's why I'm thinking we also should look at who preteens are as a part of what you'll be learning and with teenagers. Okay, number 2 are early teenagers. Early teenagers. Now, this is the beginning of the teenage itself. It runs from age 13 to 14 years. It runs from age 13 to 14 years. Now, one of the, at this developmental stage, one of the most important tasks is to be able to individuate from their families and to be accepted by their friends. So at this point, teenagers want to individuate. They want to become individuals. They want to be on their own. They don't want to be in the gathering of the family all the way. So you find that a child who used to jump into the car when it's time to go to church, as a teenager, you discover that when you tell them to come to church, they are reluctant to get into the car with you. They are delaying in dressing up and all of that. But not necessarily that the child loves God any less. No, it's not because the child loves God any less. Just that they are at this point would like to be recognized as individuals. So they don't want to be seen by their peers as mommy's girl or daddy's boy. So that's what happens at this stage. They want to become individuals on their own. And so oftentimes they want to leave the family and be accepted by friends. And then the next, number 3, is mid-teens. Mid-teens, at this stage, the individual has experienced some of the child comes with me. What the changes they see, bodily, socially, psychologically, emotionally, and all of that, the teenager would have already gone over this for maybe 20 something months already. So his body has already adjusted to the challenges that comes with puberty, the changes and all of that. So the teenager at this stage is a lot more stable than you will have with an early teenager. And then of course we'll have the late teenagers. At this stage, the teenager has already had a lot of experiences. And permit me to say quickly also that they would have made a lot of mistakes also. Yes, they would have already made a lot of mistakes. And they would have, by the grace of God and by mentorship and training and by guidance, come out of such mistakes. So he's a lot more stable, more mature, more reasonable. And this person does not throw tantrums like an early teenager would do. Like I said, part of their individuation that they want to do is that you find that the teenager begins to question some of the rules in the family. Do we have to do this? Do I have to do this? Must I do this? Why me? And all of that. Because he now has a mind of his own. He wants to begin to question certain rules, certain things, certain systems and all of that around him. So, but for the late teenager, you find that those tantrums no longer come in frequently. He has understood himself, he understood the parents and the system around him. So he's a lot more stable. Okay, so that's for teen. So let's quickly go on to the teen brain, the teenager's brain. Yes, you may be shocked. What do I mean the teenager's brain? The brain of an adult is not the same brain with a teenager. That's very true. The brain of an adult is not the brain of a teenager. From neuroscience and from developmental psychology, especially in education, you discover that some of the discoveries that have been made is that the brain develops from the back to the front. I'm using this now. I don't want to use it kind of terms we use so you can understand what I'm saying. The brain develops from the back to the front. Now that's you pick up a newborn baby, you discover that the back of the head is already formed. You can actually hold it from the neck, but you see right over here at the middle or at the front of the head is still soft. Usually you can't even touch it. That's to tell you that the skull, even up to that point, has not even hardened to cover the brain in itself. So that is where we have the prefrontal cortex. That's why we have the prefrontal cortex. And that is the center of reasoning. The prefrontal cortex is this center of reasoning. So it takes some years of development, and the brain continues to grow and develop until early 20s. So as a teenager, you discover that some part of that center, the epicenter of reasoning for that child has not actually developed. So a teenager does not reason like a full adult. I hope you understand that. So that's why we needed to understand that the teenager's brain. Okay, so let's quickly move on to number 2 and number 3. We want to look at how to communicate with your teenager. How to communicate with your teenager. Growing up, for those who were born in the late 70s, 80s, and all of that, you discover that there was no bond, so to speak. Parents just issued instructions and then we just went with them. But a teenager today, the 21st century teenager, is not one that you just issue instructions to. There are a lot of information and media for them to get information. You are not the only voice, so you cannot imagine that you will just leave an issue, make a sentence, make a statement, give an instruction, and expect him to obey it. No. While he's listening to you, there are several other voices in his head. There are several other voices in her head, questioning the authority, questioning the correctness, questioning the rightness of the instruction you are giving to him. So you can't just drop an information and walk away. For you to communicate with a 21st century teenager, you need to talk. You don't talk at the teenager, you talk with the teenager. So number 1 is that you talk with them, you don't talk at them. You talk with the teenager, you don't talk at them. If you talk at them, they listen to you and they walk away. But if you talk to them, if you talk with them, that means you will speak and then they will listen to you. And when you're done speaking, they will also speak and you listen to them. And in fact, I love something Tuti said earlier. She said, find out what they know. Find out what they know first. And then you can now tell them what it should be. And that's what I love to do. There's this program we have in our teens church. We call it Teen Special. So we go beyond just discussing what we have. We look at contemporary issues. So we, just like she discussed LGBT, we discuss LGBT in church. I'm sure some people will be like, what? What? In church? Yes, we had to. The truth is this, these children have this information all over the place. And then they need to understand the right information. So if we do not put out the right information, those who have the negative information will keep feeding them with it. And you know, those who want to corrupt our children are very intentional about it. They are very intentional. But those of us who are parents are not intentional about our parenting. We're not. I'm really sorry to say, but we're not. A lot of parents are not intentional about their parenting. Now, let me give you an instance. Uncle Joe said something yesterday, and I also saw that video. You know, the video about the after-school Satan Club. After-school Satan Club. And they were going from state to state and getting schools to sign up to a Satan club. And then when questioned, what kind of club do you want our children to attend to that you call Satan's club? They say, no, it's all about problem solving. It's all about building friendships. It's all about this. And then somebody questions, if it is all about problem solving and math and reading and friendship and all of that, why do you have to call it Satan's club? Why after school Satan's club? That's to tell you they are very, very intentional about it. Now, somebody also mentioned again about the LGBT thing and that how that they are sponsoring people to go out there and reach out to teenagers to recruit them. That's very good. Because we are just sitting and watching. We are not being intentional. We're not pushing out our information out there on the front lines. We're not indoctrinating our children. We're allowing our children open to all kinds of information, and everything is getting to them. Now, a major program that that I've kicked against over the period, and I still talk against till tomorrow, is the Big Brother Naija thing. I'm surprised how parents allow such things, obscenities, walk into their living room. And these children are watching it every day, everywhere. You see their comments, you see their discussion. That's what they're watching. And I told them, I said, it's just going to keep testing the morality of our society. Okay, so there are a lot of information out there, and we need to talk with our teenagers. Number two, please have open discussions with them. Don't just go on to criticize, to lecture, or to preach. No. Find out first, what do they know? What do they feel? What is their impression? What is their take? What do they think of the issue? And I'll tell you something again. Sometime around 1980, there was a research that was carried out, and it was a research asking African teenagers if it was possible for same-sex marriage to take place in Africa. And in that research, 92% of the respondents, 92% of the respondents said it was impossible for same-sex marriage to happen in Africa. Now, fast forward to 1990, another test was carried out again. From 1980 and then to 1990, and then to year 2000. So at the turn of the millennium, the research was carried out again. Was it possible for Africans to have same-sex marriage? By this time, the results showed that 67% said it was possible. That is to say, over these years, the mind has shifted to begin to accommodate thoughts of same-sex marriage happening in Africa. And of course, it's no longer news that it's happening in Africa. Okay, so number three, let me run because of our time. Number three, don't compare them to their siblings. Don't compare a teenager. When you want to communicate effectively with a teenager, don't compare them to their siblings. Don't compare them to their friends. Don't compare them to their classmates. Don't compare them to their cousins. No. Don't compare them to their friends. That's why they are their friends. They are the same. Birds of the same feather, you know the rest of the story. So don't compare them. Don't compare them. Discuss with them as unique individuals. Let them know what they are doing right and what they are not doing right. Don't keep pointing at someone else. I mean, even as adults, nobody likes to be compared with someone else. And then again, quickly, let me just mention this one. I have quite a lot of them. I have about 20 points here, but because of our time, I'll just take this few. If you need the whole material, you just speak with Uncle Joe. He will get to me, and then I'll be able to give it out to you. Number 5, do not present yourself to be perfect. Do not present yourself to be perfect. The truth is that teenagers know you. As a parent, they know you. And don't forget, they get to talk with grandpa, they get to talk with grandma, they get to talk with auntie, and they get to talk with uncle. Now, these people knew you when you were a teenager, and they may have told them certain things. So don't tell them, when I was a teenager, I always did what my father wanted. I always did what my mother wanted. I never brought problem to them. I did the best. I was the best in my class. No, uncle, no. Tell them the truth. I like to share my experience with my teenagers, and they know it. There's nothing I've experienced in the positive and in the negative that I've not shared with my teenagers at one point or the other, either in Teens of Impact or in the Teen Shot. I would have shared with them. I told them how that the first cigarette I ever smoked was my dad's. It was my dad. Usually he would buy a pack of cigarettes, and then he would smoke. And after about 2 or 3 days, he would say, he cannot continue with the rest. So get me another one. Now, the one he left off, he doesn't bother with what happened to it. We were trying it out. I had all my uncles, all 5 of them, plus my dad, they were all smoking. They were all smoking. Sometimes we'll come out on a Saturday morning, and then they will give us cigarette, and they say, just light and then just drag a little, and then it will come on, and then bring it for me. So we learn to smoke from them. So don't make yourself out to be perfect. Discuss your mistakes with them, and then it will even be an opportunity, a platform for you to be able to discuss with your teenagers. Okay, tell them your mistakes, and then you can just go on from there. Okay, let's quickly move on to the phases of parenting. I hope you're getting value here. Are you following me? Can I get an emoji if you're following me, and if you're getting value here? Can I get an emoji? Okay, sir. And then let's quickly move on to phases of parenting. Parenting moves as the child grows. The way we parented or raised a toddler is not the way we will be raising a preteen, and it definitely will not be the way we will raise a teenager. Now, so let me quickly take you through the 3 phases of parenting. The first phase is the phase of the oracle. The phase of the oracle is that the parent is the oracle. And you know, around our climate in Africa, when the oracle speaks, you just obey. When the oracle speaks, you just obey. The oracle only gives decrees and commands without sentiment. Everybody just accepts what the oracle says. So in this phase of parenting, the parent is seen as a god. The child accepts everything the parent says. The child does everything the parent says. The child looks up to the parent like he is all I know as God. But you see that as the child continues to grow and develop, your parenting style will also move. Now, oftentimes out of reaction, and I remember again, Mr. David said that yesterday. He said, oftentimes we are reactive instead of being proactive as parents. Or was it Uncle Joe? That we should not be reactive, we should be proactive. So oftentimes you see that when this parenting style continues, the oracle continues to give decrees and instructions. But as the children continue to grow, at some point, the children begin to break the rules. They begin to do certain things that the oracle said they should not do. So out of reaction, not a proactive step, but out of reaction, the parent moves on to the next phase of parenting, which is the ruler. And the ruler at this phase, what the parent does is to give rules, You sleep at this time, you wake up at this time, you dress your bed, you eat at this time, you do your homework, you mop the floor, you do. So all kinds of rules are given to them. At that point, the parenting phase we get into is that of rulership. The parent is giving rules and consequences if rules are not obeyed. Okay, and then we can quickly move on to the third phase. And the third phase is the mentor parent. Now, this is what I personally advise for teenage parenting. We must go from the point of the oracle to the point of the ruler to the point of a mentor. Now, the major things we get from the point of an oracle to the point of a ruler is that at this point, you are forming family values. The child is getting to know the values, he's getting to understand hard work, he's getting to learn dedication and integrity and truth. He's getting to understand that there are ways to greet, there are ways to walk, there are ways to speak, there are ways to do things. Now, all of these things, if well taught, by the time the child becomes a teenager, he no longer needs rules per se. Now, what the good job you have done from the oracle to the ruler becomes what guides him. And then at this point, we move on to the point of mentorship in parenting, where the parent is no longer just issuing commands and just issuing decrees and just giving rules, but he can actually sit down with the teenager and then they can talk. And then you can tell him, well, if this is what you choose, but I can tell you these are the likely consequences. So teenagers begin to weigh between consequences and benefits. And then this kind of parenting is what actually allows for a lot of bonding between the parent and the teenager. So I'll quickly run on to why 20th century parenting cannot work with a 21st century teenager. Why 20th century parenting cannot work with the 21st century teenager. When we were growing up, those who are in their 30s or above, technology was not as much as we have it today. Technology was not as much as we have it today. But today we have a lot of content out there that our children are feeding on. Our children are feeding on. Those who want to corrupt our children and teens are intentional and very strategic about it. And that's why we as parents must also become intentional and very, very strategic. Do you know that? Let me shock you a bit. Do you know that there are video games that when our teenagers play those video games, when you get to a certain stage, the reward the game gives to you is to watch a pornographic movie? Yes. Yes. Do you know your child could be in your house, locked up in his room, and be having sex with someone somewhere else, miles away on social media? A whole lot is happening with our children, and that's why we must rise up as 21st century parents. We must go where they are. We can't continue to stay in the confines of our sitting room. And it's so surprising. Tochi also mentioned, Ms. Tochi also mentioned it, how that even parents can get glued on their phones, can get so glued on their phones, forgetting that they have children, forgetting that they have teenagers. So we have come to a point where we must move from the kind of parenting we used to give. I remember those days parents would just give things like idiomatic expressions. They look at the daughter and then they say, he said, if you fetch water before you get to the stream, I pity for you. Rather than sit down with her and teach her, this is what to do. This is how the body works. This is what happens when you have sex. This is what happens when you have a relationship. Rather, they just throw idioms at us. Okay, so you find that kind of parenting cannot work now. There's a lot of information, so your child must necessarily hear your voice. Now, I'd also like to mention this very quickly, that the kind of things teenagers did when we were teenagers these days still do them. That your teenager has a girlfriend, or that he has seen pornography or something and all of that. This happens. But you see, these days, it is not easy to identify it. Why? Because it is all done online. It is done online. So you don't see it physically. And that's why as a parent, you must move to where the teenagers are. Okay, I see that my time is running so fast. So let me quickly move on to what I need us to know again. Like I said, this information will be out there. If you need it, just contact Uncle Tochi. He will reach me. Uncle Joe, he will reach me, and then I'll be able to give you all of this. Okay. Now let me quickly look at social media platforms teenagers use. You see your child on Facebook. Please don't be deceived by what you see on Facebook. Facebook is where they come to show you what you want to see. Facebook really is where they show you what you want to see. So there you see them wish happy birthday and stuff like that. If you really want to know how or who truly your teenager is, check them out on these social media platforms. Check them out on TikTok. Check them out on Snapchat. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on YouTube. Check them out on WhatsApp TV, not just WhatsApp, WhatsApp TV. That's why you see them really display who they are. And it will shock you. It will shock you. Let me quickly share this experience with you. Only last month, June, a teenager chatted me up. I was in the office. A teenager chatted me up and said, sir, please, I would like to chat with you when you are free. And just like I said, when a teenager wants to talk to you, you just take the opportunity because they could just change their mind when you're ready to listen. So I told her, I said, no, I'm available, we can chat. And then she said, you are the only person I can tell this. So I say, what could it be? So we could talk. And then she told me that when she was 15, she had a Facebook friend and they got chatting. And then at some point he asked for her nude pictures, naked pictures. Well, she thought because he claimed he was somewhere in Akure and she was in Port Harcourt, that there was nothing he could do. So she sent him the nude pictures. Well, not long after, he told her he wanted them to meet. And then she told him no, she was not interested. Then he popped up the nude pictures and said, if she does not meet with him, he was going to post her nude pictures. Long story made short, she discovered he was actually in Port Harcourt and not in Akure like he earlier claimed. And so, of course, they met. He raped her, took pictures of her again. And then from then on, she became she became his sex slave. Whenever he wanted sex, he would just call for her, she would come. And then there was nothing she could plead, they would have sex. And then after a while, he got into school and then left. But she met another friend on Facebook again. And then this person started chatting her up. And then before long, this person popped up the same nude pictures that she had sent to that other guy. And before you knew it, this one also took advantage of her. And then a third one also showed up. Interestingly, this happened when she was 15. By this year, June, when she was speaking to me, she was 21. So this has been going on for 6 years, from one fellow to the other. And so she chatted me up, and then I told her, okay, very quickly, my wife is a lawyer, and she's a leader with the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA. So I quickly chatted up and said, girl, see what I'm doing with this teenager. So please, I'd like to send her to your office so you know what you can do with her and all of that. And then so she sent us the chats, of course, without the nude pictures, and we continued from there. And they wrote a petition. The police went and arrested him, and then that ended it. So imagine that for 6 years, this girl had been going through this kind of terrible torment. There's a whole lot happening with our teenagers. Let me quickly mention apps you should look out for. Let me quickly mention apps you should look out for on your child's phone. Please, if you have given your teenager a phone, check it out. First and foremost, I tell them there is no need for a child below 18 to have a smartphone. It is like putting the entire world at the disposal of a child. It is too much for him to handle. But if you must give your child an Android phone, please, I demand that you check his phone regularly. Check her phone regularly. There are a number of apps on their phones these days that can hide things. There is Calculator Plus, there is Music Plus. These apps can actually hide nude pictures, charts, videos. You can open the phone and then you see it like a normal calculator that you can use for other things, but you'll be surprised when you ask the child to put in the actual password and they put in the password, you will see all kinds of things hidden behind it. I'd like to quickly round up. I'd like to quickly round up with how to build a lasting relationship. Just a few points and we'll be over. How to build a lasting relationship. Number one, be what you want them to be. Be what you want your teenager to be. I speak with teenagers all the time, and just like my own experience of smoking my father's cigarette, and a JS2 child that I was talking to only recently, one of the schools we went to, he said the pornography he has been consuming has been from his father's phone. It's his father's pornography he's watching. So don't tell them don't do, and yet you are doing. Please, they don't listen. Teenagers don't listen to what you say. They do what you do. Number two, spend time with your teen. I'm running now as I quickly try to round up. Number two, spend time with your teenager. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, at this point, we probably would have to ask you to, in 30 seconds, please. to.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
So let me quickly round up. Let me quickly round up like this. For you to build a lasting relationship with your teenager, please spend time with your teenager. Do chores with them, work with them, talk with them. Another thing, please observe their friends. Observe their friends. That's why they are friends. Whatever it is you see their friends doing, that's what your child is also doing. And then when you want to correct them, just call all of them together. Once you pick anything that is inappropriate, call all the teenagers together, including your child, and correct them, not pointing fingers, not judging them. But when you correct them together like that, then you see that no one influences the other negatively. I know that my time is up now. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much. I'd just like to answer your questions. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you so much.
Well done, Pastor Boma Enimba Koko, with a wonderful presentation. Well
You
put
said
together.
you pronounced my name so well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I try to make that a trading stock, so to see that I blend across board with everyone, especially as regards
That's great.
native understandings. Yeah, thank you for commending
Yeah,
me. Now
that's
you're making
great.
me feel
Thank you
very
so
proud of
much, sir.
myself.
No, you should be. You should be.
Thank you. And sincerely to all of us participants, well done for the time well
Whoa.
spent together with our speakers.
Whoa. That was amazing.
It's question time. In order not to just take too much of your time, it's question time. And we left the chat box open so we could take at least 3 questions for Pastor Boma and Mrs. Praise. And we're yet to receive any question. But here is what struck me the most. He said, talk with them and not talk at them. It creates room for engagement. And if you remember, Uncle Joe yesterday talked about interacting with your children. And Mr. David also, during his presentation, also said something about communication. And here we are having Mrs. Praise also saying things about do not intimidate them or try to interrogate them, but see how well you relate with them. And also Dr. Boma, Pastor Boma, hopefully he will be a doctor soon, is also encouraging us to see that we do not intimidate them with our language, but that we talk with them so that we get feedback. When you talk with people, it creates room for feedback. But when you talk at people, you are throwing things at them, either condemning them, judging them, criticizing them, or not even giving them any room for any response. That's vilification, which is entirely inappropriate. And he said something quite significant. If you want to know your children, then model yourself for them, and you will see who they really will eventually turn out. And the chat box is still open in order not to take time all up. We are expecting questions from all of us. While we are waiting for the questions, I would like to introduce Dr. Justin, who will give us a recap and eventually a goodwill message, and eventually our founder, Uncle Joe, officially known as Joseph Uko, PhD in view, would eventually close the conference, and then we call it a day. Our prospective goodwill message giver is no other but Dr. Justin O'Day. He was an associate lecturer at Castle Business School in Leicester City, United Kingdom, as at 2017 to 2018. And eventually, he became a senior lecturer in sustainability and global business strategy between 2018 and 2022. That he served at the Department of Management at Nottingham Business School, Nottingham Trent University. Today, he is a senior consultant, a climate change adaptation officer with net zero and sustainability. And also, he doubles as a transport consultant and an advisory officer at Atkins Global London, back in United Kingdom. Dr. Justin has so much to share with us, but we will reserve all of that so we do not begin to cause commotion and have people knocking at his door excessively, saying, Dr. Justin, please, can we get some of your free services? Even though I know for our sake you will grant the free services, but monies are attached to it. What I have no question here yet, but I think I would have to be the one to ask my own question. Maybe some others will get to ask. Pastor, please, a direct, simple question, but that comes with difficulty. When do you think it's appropriate to discuss with our teenagers the story about sexuality? The gist, I don't know how to really put it. I'm looking for the simplest of it. But when do you think we should start talking sex with them? Hello. Sorry, Pastor Boma. The question is meant for you.
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
not Dr. Johnson.
Sorry, I didn't. Okay, sorry, I didn't get you. Can you
Yes.
take the question again?
When do we start the conversation on sex with our teenagers, please?
Oh, for sex, I think we should sex should be introduced on the basis of the ages of the children. So right from age 2, the child understands something about sexuality.
Okay.
He has to understand about his body. And just like someone said, from 2, he should know something about sexuality, and then goes on to a teenager. Now, but before he becomes a teenager, he should have a clear understanding of some of the things he's expected to get into as a teenager. For instance, their bodies are developing. The girl is seeing her changes all over her. She begins to wonder, why are boys staring at her like they were not doing before? The boy begins to wonder, why is he growing beards? Why is his penis getting bigger? Why is his chest getting broader and all of that? So the different phases of their life, we should be able to discuss sex with them at an appropriate time, at an age appropriate information. We should be able to give them age appropriate information about sex. In other words, I may not discuss the entirety of what sex is with a 5-year-old, but there is a part of sexuality that he needs to know. In just the same way that when I'm speaking with a teenager, I should be able to openly discuss with him. Because the truth, sir, a lot of them have already known what we are trying to hide. And like Uncle Joe said, let's not play the ostrich, burying our head and thinking they don't know, when they already know far more than we can ever tell them.
Okay. Sorry, a call is interrupting. All right, then you have another question from Mr. Kalu Uko. Here is the question. It says, as a parent, how do you talk to another parent about their teenager that is a negative influence without coming off brashly?
That's a good one. Thank you for the question. You know, growing up, anybody could correct any child.
True.
You know, when we were children, and even when we were teenagers, anybody could correct you. They could stop you on the way and say, young man, what are you doing? Young lady, what is this? But the world has moved. And so now everybody tends to mind their business. And again, I also understand the sentiment, because some parents would not want to take joyfully what you're trying to tell them about the child. They think you are trying to demean them. They think you're trying to say something negative about their family and all of that. I remember again, Mr. David mentioned something like that yesterday, when he said he noticed a child who he suspected would have been using drugs. And the first thing the parents did was to come up with a defense. So that's what happens when you want to approach a parent about their teenager that is a negative influence. Please don't put it to them like their child is a problem, because the first thing they see is that they see their failure in their child's negative behavior. They feel, oh, okay, you want to tell us now that we are not good parents. That's why our child is misbehaving. So they will always come up defensive. So the best thing for me, what I like to do is just like what you are doing now. Don't go directly telling them your child is a negative influence. Look for an opportunity to discuss with them and then mention certain negative influences you have seen around teenagers within the neighborhood. And that you think these are the things we need to do to try to help these teenagers come out of this. Now, if there is no finger pointing at their child directly, they will take it. But if it directly points at their child as a negative influence, they will come out defensive. And better still, why not? You can call the teenager and talk to the teenager directly too.
Thank you very much, sincerely. That was quite a prudent answer. For prudent responses to equally be gotten from the other parents. Quite appreciative. I know Mr. Kalu got that. And here is a question for Mrs. Praise. How do we help our youth or teenagers to understand that there is a union between religion and social life without inhibiting them from understanding that certain sites they go to, even though they are dangerous, but again, they need to understand the kind of content they go for. I think generally, because we get so church influenced and we get so Islamically influenced and say the doctrines or the teachings are saying this, and we forget about society. C.P. Vaki said something, be human, be holy. That's the title of a book of his he wrote some time ago. He's an Indian author, but he said, be human, be holy. But you see, perspective and how to really be human and be holy is entirely not an easy task to come by. So, Mrs. Praise, please, how would you advise parents to encourage children to understand that while they are at what they get to do, I am a social guy, I've got swag, I am everywhere, I am popular, I am celebrated amongst my peers, they equally praise God in church and also don't use religion to hide some of those bad lives they are living. Let them be open, whether in church or in the social space. Mrs. Praise, please, how do we get parents to encourage their teenagers to really come forth with such a balanced life without necessarily indulging in the ills the society offers or throws at them? Is she still there?
Okay, I do hope I understand your question. But what came to my mind as I was listening to your explanation of the question is contemporary without compromise. You see,
Yes.
Christianity is not a religion of mediocrity or backwardness or ignorance. So there are certain, we need to be updated with the trend of things, but not to compromise our values. Is first of all, even in Christianity, we are taught values. The Bible teaches us a lot of values that will help us. So we're not supposed to hide the things hide the things that we do that are wrong. So the term is contemporary without compromise, because all the values that the Bible teaches us are for our own good and not for the good of. So the parents are supposed to tell the children that it's for their good and not for the good of them parents, not even for the good of God. Did I answer the question, sir?
Yeah, you did so very well, truly. Yes, being contemporary without necessarily compromising the values you are taught in church. I think that should be, your social life should be in sync with your religious or spiritual principles. Amazing, and we're very grateful, sincerely, Mrs. Praise Tochi, for summarily answering the question, but doing a great job with the theme on sexuality, and to also our second speaker, Pastor Boma, you did us well by enlightening us better on how to be able to understand sexuality in the 21st century. You made mention of something quite key and significant. The 20th century sexual knowledge is entirely different from what is happening in our contemporary era. It has evolved. We are very grateful having had you enlighten us that much. Sadly to say, there's a question lingering. We would not have to go if the time has, we have run out of time. We will have to call now the chief host, Dr. Justin O'Day, who is back in the UK, to give us a recap and also a goodwill message. And then eventually, our brother Uncle Joe will wrap up and close the conference and express our gratitude to our key significant speakers who have enlightened us immensely. Dr. Justin, my namesake, please.
All right. Good evening. If you can hear my voice, that would be nice. You can indicate, but I do hope you can hear me. Of course, my name is Justin, and that has been elaborately introduced. Thank you for that. Thank you for that opportunity. Yes, I want to say that I'm very grateful to have been part of this event from yesterday up until now. And to be very honest with you, I think Joe Oko co-opted me into this event by accident without giving me much details. And I felt like, okay, this is an ambush. However, I'll take it as given because I think that is how people in paramilitary organizations behave. Joe was my trainer in Federal Road Safety in 2011. So I understand he's my boss. He can always give that command and I come in. Thank you so much, everybody. Yes, yesterday, of course, this program about parental consciousness in raising teenagers is on point. It is really, really on point. It is timely. It is directed towards the most people that need it most. And as a matter of fact, it's coming at the point when there are issues around parenting that most of us that are early parents or new parents are actually dabbling with. So it is really important. Of course, I want to say thank you. Yesterday, David spoke on issues around drug awareness among teenagers, and he gave critical attention to certain areas. I won't be able to give all of them because of time, but I know he mentioned types of drugs, causes of drug abuse. He mentioned exposure, environmental factors that could lead to drug abuse depending on where you live, which I think is very important. If you live in the barracks, you will expect that your children will have barracks behavior. If you live in a GRA where civil servants live, you will expect certain things that will happen around. So that was covered in his presentation. On how to spot drug signs was topical in his presentation among teenagers. And also he gave testimonies about himself and of course case studies, including a very compelling one indeed that has to do with someone exchanging her child for drugs. So you can imagine how intense it could be when people become really addicted to drugs. So for today, Mrs. Tochi Press did a lot to discuss on a lot of conversation around sexuality and was able to define what LGBTQ plus is about. She spoke on sexuality and influence of parents on teen sexuality. She discussed, of course, delayed gratification, which in simple terms means that you can delay sex until, or teens can delay sex until when it is appropriate. And by her definition, when it is appropriate means when they are married. She spoke about children need family time, because that has been replicated across all the conversation about ability to spend time with children, taking them on holiday to cool off from academic work or any kind of brain work that they could be regularly engaging. She spoke about reorientation and so many other things, including discipline in using mobile phones and gadgets, and of course, engaging ourselves as parents in some internet search to be able to study emerging issues and things that could impact on our children that we might not be adequately aware of because of our own schedule. So that was from her, though a lot was spoken and she took time to actually digest these topics. And of course, then Pastor came, the combination. Pastor has so many caps. He's a pastor, he's a teacher, and he's taught his experiences with so many people. And then I know that for teachers, if you give them time, they could take the whole week to talk about what they know. Definitely, Pastor, you were not given that opportunity, but for the few minutes you had, you were able to, you did well, and we really appreciate that. You mentioned, you started by saying that an untrained parent is a dangerous parent, and giving the teen attention, it was important, and you defined who a teenager is, and you're able to classify into 3 or 4 groups about the pre-teens, early teens, mid-teens, and late teens. And late teens, you were emphatic about where mistakes could have been made, and at that point, they will begin to question. And of course, a new terminology that came up from you today was individuate. You spoke like Cross River State Governor there. So early teens have to individuate. So thank you for giving us that brain. Teenagers' brain, you spoke about that. Parents need to be intentional about parenting. I went on and on and on to talk about church faith, which has to do with mentoring, and for we parents to begin to now teach around the value system that our teens need to take over, which is very, very important. I have spent my own time dealing with young adults, not teens per se. In the past 5 years, I've been speaking to adults and they confide in me everything. When I said everything, they confide in me about their girlfriends, their relation, because I am an academic mentor in the university. And every year I do mentor at least 150 of young people in the university. And as a mentor, speak to me directly, everything that is affecting them. And I cite confidentiality, not to mention anything to anybody, and I understand everything that is affecting them at that level. I have had to deal with every year those who are arriving in universities for the first time. In the UK, you understand what it means when a child is 18 and is in the university. It means the world has opened up for him or for her. They go night clubbing, they go do a lot of things, and that is the point, or that is the age when they get into drugs. And I have had cases of children slipping into drugs and ways to which we can return them. And of course, dealt with estrangement among young people. So all of this mirrored into what they will become. And of course, let me also mention this, that when these kids or these young people come to school, to the university, for instance, they reflect exactly what their parents will teach them at home. I see them. There are some that will come to you. It's difficult to get a child in the UK to greet you, "Good morning, sir." It's very difficult. So once a student will come to me and say, "Good morning, sir," I will give that person attention. It's like there is something behind this, So otherwise, it doesn't happen. So when you see those who come from that disciplined background in the classroom, the way they behave, the way they submit the assignment, the way they talk to you, it reflects. It's even reflective in their grades. So it is up to us, and I think you have done a whole lot in this program, and the tutelage is very, very crucial. Just to wrap up again on Pastor, the 21st century parenting, what is different from the old school one, the one that were brought up, and possibly the one Officer Joe could use in bringing me up in Shagamu. It's different from the one we have to bring them up now. You went ahead to talk about how to build lasting relationship, be a good example yourself. My child just turned, my first daughter turned 7 on the 6th of day before yesterday on the 6th. And yes,
Wow.
this morning when we were traveling from Blackpool from holiday back to Nottingham, she was asking me how I met mommy. Where did we meet? I say, waiting, this one they concern you now. You are only 7, you are 7 years old. You're asking me how I met mommy when we were about 20 years. It's still a long journey. I don't expect that question.
Yeah.
You see, but that is a question. And when I tried to maneuver through it, she knew that I was not telling her the real story. She went over to mommy and said, "You want to hear mommy's version of it?" You see, so it is true that what you said about what they are learning and what we tell them, they know. Sometimes they know even more than us. And for my kids, they know geography very well. So when you mention a place in the world, don't be shocked that she will tell you exactly where that is in the map. And some of the things they know about YouTube, they know things. So when they speak this, I'm like, where did you learn this from? So all you have said is on point. I couldn't fault any. There could have been questions, but not opportunity. But as we go along, we will continue to, engage and make ourselves understand this thing. But just to say thank you to all parents that are able to spend your time, will understand this investment, to understand how much it might have cost you, including the megabytes you have bought to come here. I am very hopeful that this event, your investment will actually have what they call reward for investment. So thank you so much. The issue maybe we'll talk about another day is for me trying to do free online engagement for young people, including, like I said yesterday, early careers, students and graduates on their employability and setting their own career development goals. So when they train them, send them to universities, we'll take them from there and try to see which career will fit them most, and we advise. I do that privately, and usually I will always contact Joe with some links and say people want to join, they can join. So if you are interested, keep an eye around us. Social media, anywhere. My name is just Justin Udie. If you put that anywhere, you see me. And if you see my face now, it won't change across social media. Thank you so much, Joe. All the best, guys.
Justin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So, yes, I just
Okay.
hand over to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Looks like our moderator is out. To round up the program, I wish to say a big thank you to everyone that made our time to be a part of this. It's not been easy, I understand. Your megabytes, your schedules, you needed to, replan to be here, probably a lot of inconveniences. But I know that the investments that have been made all through this conference will go a long way to profit our children and our generation. It's not just going to be in vain. And God will reward every one of us in Jesus' name. And furthermore, I wish to say that sex education is age appropriate. As you sex educate your children, like Pastor Boma said, it should be age appropriate. Know what to tell them at what age. Dr. Justin, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. You said I ambushed you. Yes, I actually ambushed you. I was at a crossroads when during the planning, and we got to that point, and it was like, if we don't do this, we might not be able to host this conference. And you were just the only person who I knew I could run to, and you wouldn't turn me down. And I'm happy to say that you lived up to it. Thank you so very much. I'm most grateful. The team of the Parenting Parliament, actually, they appreciate you so much. Thank you. And to all our facilitators, from Mr. David yesterday, Sister Tochi, and Pastor Boma, maybe someone else will say I ambushed him also, because we had some technical hitches. Before Pastor Boma and Sister Tochi was them, let me confess my sins. And while we were brainstorming with the technical team, they said we have people around who could actually, because one of the speakers suddenly took ill. The lady on the flyer, she took ill, and it's something we couldn't help. So we were torn between, do we stop this program? And, the team just said, no, we can't stop this program. There are people who are even better who could deliver on this. But I was like, the time is just short. You know, my younger sister Ruth was like, why not contact your coaches? You have some mentors, contact them. I told her I've contacted them. I had contacted them to be a part of this program, but they also have programs. And I don't want to abuse my relationship with them because of tomorrow. He said, no, just talk with them. And when I spoke with one of them, she said she would talk to someone, and to God be the glory. We have the facilitators, everybody on point. Our prayers, all the prayers we did before the program, God has been there. We have seen the hand of God at work. It's not man. We had settled it. We had settled it in spirit. We had everything is working as God has ordained it. We return all the glory to Him. And to our technical team, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. I cannot mention all their names. They are the ones behind the background. In fact, most of them may not even be directly talking to us, but they are the hands making sure that everything